Okay, this is for the class World History 375, Korea and Vietnam Wars, Fall 2015 D term. Instructor Rob Ritchie, and the interviewer is Eric Smith, and I'm interviewing Joe Reneman. Um, Joe, when you volunteered for the Army, correct?
Correct.
But at the time, what was your background? How old were you, and what was the general perception around about what was going on in the war?
Well, general perception was there was a war and everybody was going. People were coming back in caskets. Uh, I just felt I had to do my part.
And what year did you volunteer?
68.
You volunteered in '68, and any family members uh, drafted or volunteered as well?
No,
Okay.
just me.
Okay.
At that time, my brother went in later in the Navy,
Okay.
or my brother's already in the Navy.
Okay. So you just volunteered just out of a sense of patriotic
Right.
duty.
Right.
You hear all kinds of stories, around the country about a real anti-war sentiment. In our area, was it like that?
Well, now see, when I left, I graduated in '66, and I went out in Ohio. Tip City, Ohio is a tool and die maker, and I got a deferment from the draft board in order to go to college, in order to become a tool and die maker. And I felt that that was kind of not right
Hmm.
because all these guys were being taken for no reason. I mean, they couldn't pursue their career or their dreams. So I thought, well, I'll go and do my part and be done. So that's what I did.
Well, how about the perception in the public around here? I'm assuming in a rural kind of area that it's a little
Around here,
bit
it wasn't that
tamer
bad,
than the.
and I never really focused on that. When you get out of school, I think your brains are kind of scattered anyway because you've got so much stuff you're looking at and you're doing and around. But the sense that something was going on that was major, that was affecting the whole world, I thought I should be able to see it.
Mhm. Um, so take me through what were your first experiences when you went through training, and where did you go? What was that like?
Well, when I was drafted, one of the first experience I had, and this is with the Army, I went in the U.S. Army, was they gave papers. There was, I think, about 5 of us that went from Fairmont, West Virginia, and we were going to go fly to Pittsburgh, and then from Pittsburgh down to Fort Knox, Kentucky, for basic training. So they gave this one fellow all the papers and said, "You're in charge." So we get up to the airport in Pittsburgh, and he's wanting to go this way. And I said, "No." I said, "Where we want to go to the terminal is this way." "No, I'm in charge." That should have been my first clue about the way things work in the Army. So I said, "Well, you go that way, I'll go the right way." So about three of them went with me and 2 went with him. Finally, those others come on down to where we were. But that was my first experience. But when I got into the basic, that one basic wasn't bad. I had a lot of, it was break down and then build up in basic. And in basic, we had a lot of guys that came from like Detroit and Michigan, up in that area, all that were kind of forced into the service. So they were pretty tough street guys. But a lot of them were just good guys. They were just in a bad situation.
Mhm.
But then from there, I went to Maryland, to Fort Benning, or Aberdeen Proving Grounds in Maryland. And that's where I was a welder. That was my MOS, which is what my job was. And then from there, I was supposed to go to Germany, but they said, "Oh, no, we need Vietnam people." So that's where I ended up in Vietnam.
Okay, so tell me about that first day of stepping off into Vietnam and what
Well,
that culture shock
the
was
first
like.
day we landed, I'm not quite sure, but I think it was Cam Ranh Bay. It may have not have been. It was an airport. But as we were coming down and the plane was getting ready to touch the tarmac, they come over the PA system, said when we land the ground, the plane will not shut down, but you guys will get off and run for cover because they were being rocketed at that time. So as soon as the plane landed, we come out of the plane and off into the ditches we go. So there you are.
So talk about getting thrown into it.
Right now, just right now, it was kind of a wake up. It was like kind of like a nightmare not a nightmare, but a story that somebody was telling, and there it was. It was all realistic. Then from there, we went on buses after a brief standby of what they do and tell everybody where they got to go. But they put us on buses, and all these buses had bars across them and mesh across there so the grenades or something couldn't get through. And you looked at all these little shanties that went through. I mean, cardboard, paper, whatever they had to put them up, and you felt so sorry for the people as you went through. And I was supposed to go to Khartoum, I think is what it was. It was up in the middle of the country. But the intern put me down in Quinyon, which is on the coast, next to the coast. And that was actually a property disposal office. We received everything from, I don't know, you might say everything from little hammers to tanks. Got everything and upgraded them or whatever we had to do and shipped them wherever.
Okay. Were there any previous experiences that you had in life or characteristics or talents that you think helped you the most while you were there?
Other than none, one put my head down when they started shooting. That's one thing I can say. No, I think just the self-respect that my parents had taught us, that you just don't do certain things. You respect other people. I know a lot of those guys that was in there were thrown into that position where they were at, and it was either prison or service. So they had no choice. I had no choice. And some of them were drafted without no choice at all. Yeah, I seemed to get along with everybody. But some of the guys had a pretty rough time with it.
Mm-hmm. I can imagine especially if it wasn't their choice to be there. So when you were over there, you were in engineering?
Yeah, it was an engineering outfit.
What was your typical day?
A typical day was, of course, rise early in the morning, of course, always, and go to the mess hall and eat your whatever they had, which wasn't too much sometimes. Then go to the yard and work. And then you worked until 5 or 6 or 7 o'clock in the evening, then back. And then a lot of times you were out on the line all the time because we were in an open fire zone all the time. So we always received fire sometime. If it wasn't mortars, it was just small arms fire. But just kept us busy.
And what kind of work were you doing specifically? Mechanic work, that type of thing, or
what kind? Well, we disassembled everything. Anything come in like a tank or trucks. I welded up a lot of tanks because they couldn't have the turrets to move or the hatches to come open as they're in transport. So we'd weld them up, and a lot of them were pretty bad shape. More shape that's what made me realize how serious this really is. Because you come in with a tank and you see a tank with all the steel and cuts and burn marks, and I mean it's pretty nasty looking. So we just did everything, and anybody come in, any of our people come in, we'd help fix their vehicles, either shore them up better for protection or give them better mirrors on, because a lot of those people couldn't drive where they'd bust their mirrors off, so we'd support them so they could bust their mirrors off. They could at least have a way to see. And we'd go salvage some things out. Sometimes we'd have to go out with wreckers or cranes and pick stuff out of the ditches or out where they've been blown out or where they run them over the hill or whatever happened to them.
And under fire?
Normally it wasn't. Normally it wasn't, but you always had to be careful wherever you were at.
Sure. Um, did you have any downtime? And if you did, what did you do for entertainment?
Well, we had to build inside these. If you know what a barracks is, we had those two-story barracks, and we would put walls in there, and then we'd put what they call PSP, which is a metal. Then we put sandbags in between that, and so we'd have small rooms with maybe, I don't know, maybe 4 or 6 bunks in there. So we just sit around and talk to each other in the evenings or something like that. Just
When they sent you over there, what did you understand your mission to be?
I don't think there was really a clear understanding. If it was, I didn't quite get it. I mean, I just thought we were fighting the communists, trying to control the country, get the country back on its feet, is what I assumed. But I don't know. The more you're over there, and before I left over there, when I was in the school, we had an economics teacher tell us that the Vietnam War is going to last between 8 and 10 years, because this is a war of economics. It lasted 10 years. And when I got over there, and especially in the place I was at, you could see the waste, the total waste that was done. They brought 2, I think they were called 108 tanks, brand new. And they brought them in, and they said, oh, we're not going to use those more. Now, they're just right off the ship, they're brand new, there's nothing wrong with them. They said, put them up in the top part of the yard. Well, up top of the yard, of course, there's mud and everything else around. And they just sat there, and people left the hatches open, because the guys come in and got pilfered through them, scavenged different parts off of them. So it just actually went to waste. Then after about 3 or 4 or 5 months, whatever it was, they said, oh, yeah, we're going to use those again. Well, there they are. I've seen things come in that maybe, well, one thing particularly come in, they had a pump. It pumped water. And they had one little spout broke off of, which always had is 6 bolts there. You just take that bolts off, put another spout on, be done with it. No, junk it. Waste, total waste. I'd never seen so much waste in my life. And I come from a place that, I mean, we had stuff when we grew up, but we appreciated everything. We took care of everything. No, not there. It's somebody else's. The heck with it. We'll just do whatever. Throw it away. Get another one.
Wow.
It amazes me.
So if nobody in your training or anything really gave you a clear cut, this is what the mission is and this is what we're here to accomplish, was that kind of the sense that all your buddies had too? Was it kind of like, why are we here? Or?
Yeah, it was just like, here, we're just here until it's over. That's the sense I got. That's what most of the guys I worked with got.
Wow. Was there anything that you would have done differently when you were over there?
Done differently. Well, I can't think of anything that I'd done differently. I can tell you this, the experience was one that I wouldn't want to go through again, but it's an experience that I wouldn't want to give up, if you can understand that. But yeah, as far as changing anything, I'm not so sure.
So how did your tour end, and what were the days leading up to that like?
Okay, let's see. They give you what you call a short timer. After you have so many days left, or you start counting down the different days, like 29 days or 25 days, whatever it may have been. But we were hit the same day I left, or the same night. We were hit just about, I don't know. If we weren't hit 3 or 4 times a week, I mean, somebody shooting at us or mortaring us or something. But when I left, we were hit that night. And in fact, that morning, I just got up and put my duffel bag stuff together, and they sent me to, I'm not sure. Oh, I went to the airport first at Quin Yon. And yeah, from there we flew I think Cameron Bay. I'm not sure about that either. I think that's where we went. But that's where I left everything. Then from there they sent us to California, and that's where I left the rest of everything. So the only thing I had was me. I carried nothing. And it's just, here, eat this steak, get out. You're done. That was it. That was for everybody. There was no come here, let's sit down, let's talk about this experience, or whether you can really relate to anything. Because remember what I said, when I went in that country, I felt sorry for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
When I left, I probably could have just blowed everything up as I left. I mean, and that's not an attitude to have. And I knew that wasn't an attitude to have. But it took me time to get over that attitude. Because you see so much stuff, so many your friends lost. That's not good. Not good at all. War, nobody wins. Nobody.
Well, and I would assume that just the lack of that feeling of, why are we here, has got to wear on you mentally as you're seeing that,
Well, what you
progress.
do, you count down. I've only got 2 months left, or I got 5 months left, or whatever it may have been, and you count yourself down.
Yeah.
But there's guys I seen came there, and one guy went in there for more than a week and a half, and he was shot up and he was gone. I mean, it's just that quick. You just go. And when they pulled you out of the hostile area, and I wasn't in really that much of a hostile area, as some of these guys that I know were right in the midst of it, and they pulled them right out of the jungles and put them right in citizens. Here, go home. I mean, there was no letdown. There was no follow-up. There was nothing to help anybody adjust from every night. I mean, every night, if you hear something go off, you were gone. Right now, you went to your position where you were supposed to be. But when they pulled you out, put you there like that, it's amazing. I mean, it really made you think. And then they made fun of some of these guys because somebody either holler something or something, they jump down or fall down. Yeah, well, that's what you did. I mean, that's how you protected yourself.
Sure.
It was just one of those. But
could you kind of feel the anxiety growing as you got closer to that day that you were going to get to leave there?
As you got ready to go, yeah.
I could imagine. What was your reception like when you got back home?
Well, my father was sick at that time. No, he wasn't. He'd already passed away. But I came. I went to my brother's, I think. But no, I flew in and I got a ride, military. Oh, this is something. I went to Cameron Bay and I wanted to get out of there. And of course, another flight's going out. So I caught what they call a military hop, which is an airplane, one of our airplanes that are going somewhere. Somebody in the military can get on there and go. Of course, you don't have to pay or anything. So I got on that, and that guy was going to charge me $20 at Airman to get me on there. But I never gave him $20 because I was running late and I had to run for the plane. But anyway, I got into Morgantown, and that was through a military, or through when I got to San Francisco. San Francisco sent me on with a commercial airline. But I got to Morgantown, and then a guy picked me up from there and took me on to Grafton, dropped me off.
And this was 1969?
That was 70. I was there 68, 69. So it was into 69, yeah.
Okay. And for those people that don't know, Grafton's very supportive of the veterans.
Right.
So I'm assuming that you probably came home to a much better welcome than most of your buddies did. No.
No. Some of them didn't even know I was over there.
Wow.
That's what amazed me. Yeah.
So no.
See, that's a hard thing to understand. Of course, I belong to the VFW now. And at the time, there were some of these hardliners that were in the VFWs, the American Legions, they thought the Vietnam War wasn't right. Some of them, not all of them, but some of them. So they rejected some of them from becoming members. Now they didn't here in Grafton, but some of the other organizations did, and that turned sour grapes to a lot of people. That's where your AMVETS come into play, and the Vietnam. Vietnam. There's another organization, Vietnam. I don't know what they call themselves now, but anyway, they came into play also. But I felt that the Veterans of Foreign War is a very good organization, and they do a lot for the veterans. And it doesn't make a difference whether they had experiences overseas or not, but they still help all veterans, and it's a good deal. And the American Legion also does it.
So your experience over there, how did that impact your life afterwards? For better or for worse?
Well, for the better, because it opens your eyes up. It opens your eyes up to everything. It opens your eyes up to how things are actually done. And the waste is what really sticks in my craw. I mean, to waste stuff the way they did, I just could not believe it. It just totally made, and it got worse when I got back here in the States, because I was stationed down in Fort Benning, Georgia, and they had what they called an IG inspection, which is an inspection of everything. And I, at that time, became a machinist. So I was in charge of a third shop, what they call over there. Anyway, we had all kinds of stuff there. And they did the thing, when they went through, if it wasn't on a certain list, they threw it in the back of the truck. So I'm not talking about chintzy stuff. I'm talking good stuff, new stuff. Then they took it out and dumped it and buried it. Now this is our government. This is our taxpayers' dollars. And see, that's what opened my eyes up more than anything. It made me think, how do people perceive in these positions that have entrusted with this money or this responsibility to do something or to use something in a special positive way, and they don't do it. And today I see it all the time. Same stuff all the time.
You were talking about the economics teacher that told you that that it was all about money.
Yeah.
But where were you at when you had that teacher? Was that?
I was in high school. I just was getting ready to graduate. Yeah. Because she knew a lot of them were going into the service. But that was her expression. She said it's in the War of Economics. It's going to last 8 to 10 years. It lasted 10 years.
And did you believe that at the time, or were you skeptical?
Well,
of what
I
she was
believed her
saying?
in a way. You know how you hear things and you think, well, yeah, that could be possible. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I actually felt that could be true, but after seeing all what was going on, yeah, that's true. And then afterwards, after I'd finished serving in Fort Benning, and seeing when they pulled out of Vietnam and dumping the choppers off the sides of the ships, I mean, you're talking $100,000 chopper just shoving it off the side of the ship down in the water. I mean, just total destruction of property. I mean, amazing. Just disregard. And I can understand some of that, but it just doesn't make sense to me to waste that much. And that's why war is so costly. It's more costly on a human life anyway. But economically, somebody makes a lot of money off somebody's blood. Plain and simple.
And you've got contact with a lot of different veterans. Any stories about folks that were in Vietnam that may have had a different take on it than you did, a different effect to their life in a negative way?
In a negative way? No, I think the negative way would be if they've lost a limb or pain in some way. Yeah, I could see that negativity. But as far as them, they're just, most of them I've talked to that's had any experience, they think that it was a good experience. They don't want to go through it again. but they're glad they did go through it and get through it. Yeah, it's not a good thing. It's never a good thing, but it's always a good thing to see knowledge and to see what's going on, to see how it really is. Because what they were telling, well, for instance, they had a program they called an early out program. If you come back, if you re-up for, I think it was 6 months, and you had less than 5 months after that period of time, if you get to go home, and then they come back, and then they spent that 5 months or 6 months, and then they were out. Okay? Well, this one guy left, and I think he went to Ohio. I'm not quite sure, and I couldn't tell you his name. But in between that time that he was gone, one of the ammo dumps were hit. Well, they lost 56 men. 56. Because we had to go over and guard, and they blowed up pads, they blowed up the towers, they blowed up everything over there. And when he got back, he was kind of joking around like, nothing happened, like there was like 2 people killed or something during that week. So the news wasn't even putting the right figures down. So they were lying to the American people too. So there it again. I looked at this situation and said, well, they got all this waste, and then they do all these lies to cover up all this stuff. And it continues today. They do the same thing. Just total out and out lying. Instead of telling the people the way things are. I mean, if you always tell the truth, you don't have to tell another lie to cover that lie. But they do it, and it's amazing.
Okay, well, that's all I've got. Thank you for your service, and thanks for doing this interview with me.
Well, I hope everything works out good for you on this.
Thanks.